Clack the Geek here, welcome back to a brand new video. It's quite nice outside, but for this video we are staying inside number 9. These intros are so bad. First things first, I know I've got a bit of a cold. We just got to put up with it. We just got to charge forward, just got to carry on. And yeah, let's carry on. And we're carrying on with the number 9 retrospective review series, where we're going through every number 9 series that I haven't covered on the channel and, reviewing them. And today we will be covering series 2. Honestly, I have been really enjoying going back through all the number 9s, going through them in like series order, because let's say watching series 1, series 2, not watching them in episodic order, but just like in series order. I've been really enjoying it, and I'm so glad that now we get to talk about some absolute just brilliant stuff, because series 2, if series 1 put number 9 out there, series 2 elevated it and put it as a front runner in the TV landscape. Now is one of the greats of our current TV landscape, because series 2 is incredible. I mean, for me, there's 3 10 out of 10 episodes. That's half of this series. That's really good. And even the other episodes are really good too. They just kind of, some of them do get overshadowed a little bit. I think that's a bit unfair, because they are really good, just not quite the same level as some of the other episodes. There is one episode here that everybody knows about, number 9. Everybody praises. It's like the most popular. But with the rest of the series, it's still, they're pushing the boat out more. They're pushing their storytelling techniques, their structural techniques, the way that the episodes are presented and made. They're pushing the boat out more and more, getting bigger names, and it's just, this is what pushed number 9 to the next level. So I can't wait to talk about these 6 episodes. So let's get to it. Also, mild spoilers ahead. Check the timestamps if you want to skip any sections. I'll make it crystal clear if I will talk about spoilers at a particular time. Yeah. So the series opener, La Couchette, which in some ways is quite similar to Sardines from the previous season. You got a very overtly claustrophobic setting. Here it's like a sleep train travel thing, with like a bunch of different beds and people crammed in this one room. And you've also got a character in each episode who, what their main characteristic is that they stink. That's true. You had Stinky John in Sardines, and you have Steve's character here. I can't pronounce his name, but yeah. But I think that this is Sardines done much better. As for it being a quite claustrophobic setting, here it is done much better in my opinion, because it's a more natural setting. It's on those travel train things, where you can get some sleep in the bunk beds and whatnot. It's a much more realistic scenario. It's much more natural. The claustrophobia comes out more organically, but the key thing is that the claustrophobia isn't used to be awkward and kind of disturbing it's just a bit weird. It's used for comedy, and the comedy comes out really well with the interactions of the characters and the scenarios, and all their funny one-liners and gags. It is just really funny, and like you got like Reese, who's the very serious, wants some sleep. Which, although he's a bit of a got to stick up his arse, that kind of character, you can see where he's coming from. You do feel a bit sorry for him. He just wants some sleep, doesn't he? But the other characters surrounding him are also really funny. You've got this couple who, both of them have appeared in Doctor Who, and you've got Mark Benton, who was Clive in the first episode of the revival of Doctor Who in Rose, so that's cool to see him again. But they're really funny. You've got an Australian hitchhiker, you've got a stowaway played by Jack Whitehall, and I don't really like watch his work, but he was quite funny, I thought. Pemberton's German character, he was quite funny as well. And they all bounce off each other. They bounce off each other really well, and I just really enjoyed the interactions between them. But there's also a plot line involving a dead body being found on one of the beds, which is probably the weakest part of the episode. It's not bad, and it didn't affect my enjoyment of the episode, because I still really enjoy this one, but it does kind of, it isn't the most well developed in terms of plot lines, but it is kind of cool, I guess. And I think the twist of who was responsible, and the kind of the double twist of it being like this wasn't meant to happen was quite cool, I thought. So I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10, and this episode has improved for me. I think it's a really fun one and a really cozy one that you can watch in bed, like what I did. It was nice, tucked in bed. You can just throw this one on. It was quite a cozy episode in my opinion. Episode 2 now, The 12 Days of Christine. Widely regarded as the greatest episode in the show's history, and it is totally worthy of that status. And I'm just going to say it now, even if you don't plan to watch number 9, because I know there's a few of my commenters and subscribers who aren't really fans of number 9. My parents, they're the same. They did not like A Quiet Night In. They don't want to watch number 9. But no matter who you are, this is a piece of television, this piece of media that you have to watch in your life. Even if this is the only ever episode of number 9 that you ever watch ever again, and you never want to watch the show ever again, that's fine. It's not for everyone, this show. But please, for the love of God, watch this episode, because it's one of the greatest pieces of media that has ever existed. And I don't say that lightly. The episode follows the life of Christine, played by Sheridan Smith, in an absolutely phenomenal, gut-wrenching, brilliant performance from her. And it covers, like, the key events in her life, so like when she met her boyfriend, when they moved in together, when they had a baby, etc., across 12 days. And it skips ahead every 13 months. So the first day is on New Year's Day, when she meets her boyfriend. And then the next scene is on Valentine's Day of the next year, so it cuts to 13 months, because Valentine's Day is in February, and it's like a continuous quantity thing, which is actually referenced in the episode, so kind of a good way of explaining that kind of the jumps in time and the gaps in time. It's a good way of explaining that. But then in the episode, there's these weird hints of weird things that shouldn't be there. So on Valentine's Day, she gets a card from an old boyfriend that she hasn't seen in years, and then it turns out that this boyfriend, in the next scene it's revealed, died when they were 16, and it's like, what's going on? And then her mum, Christine's mum, says she's got a memory like a sieve. And then later on you meet Christine's dad, who's got dementia. This idea of memory, and the memory kind of not cheating, being jumbled up. It's it starts off quite subtle, and then as the episode goes on, it gets more overt. So when Christine's dad has died at some point in the episode, and then it gets to a scene when he's dead, but then he appears alive and well, and it's like, what's going on? And then obviously you've got Reese's character in the raincoat. And there's those are the scenes where it focuses on the horror and the tension, just kind of spooky atmospheric scenes where you don't really know what's going on first watch, and then when you do know, it does recontextualise it. But at first I was just thinking, what's going on? And then the final scene taking place on Christmas Day, Christine's boyfriend who had dumped her previously in the episode, he's there back with her. Her dead father's there, alive and well. Her old flatmate from years ago is there. What's going on? They hand her a photo album, and it's got all moments from her life, including stuff in the episode that's brought up, like the cot they put up, or Halloween and whatnot. It's like her life is flashing before her eyes. And I kid you not, at that moment of realisation, when you realise, spoilers, that Christine is dying and her life is flashing before her eyes, I just couldn't help but burst into tears. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Her goodbye at the end is heartbreaking. But on rewatch, this episode just gets better and better. This episode is one of the most meticulously crafted things I've ever seen. Every line of dialogue, every prop, every costume, every bit of sound design, every little detail, every single one is important to making this reveal at the end hit like a car crash. Ironic, I know. But then beyond that, this idea of how fragile life is, and just cherishing even tiny little things, because Christine is not presented as this super powerful person. She's just a normal person. She had a husband, she had a kid, she works at a shoe shop, etc. She's got such a normal, mundane life, but she's got people who she loves. She's got family and friends and whatnot, and they're all there in that final scene to bid her farewell in her dying moments. And it breaks my heart every time. This episode is a 10 out of 10. If I could give it an 11 out of 10, I would. Objectively, this is the best episode of the show, and if you've never seen number 9, please, for the love of God, watch this one at some point of your life. It's mandatory viewing for every single person on this planet. Episode 3 now, The Trial of Elizabeth Gadge. Now, anything coming after the 12 Days of Christine will be a tough act to follow. How do you top that? Well, you don't really. And so this episode kind of does get kind of overshadowed quite a lot, because it comes after 12 days and nothing can top 12 days. But It's a shame because I really do like this episode and it is quite underrated and I have a lot of fun with it. First of all, I adore the fact that it's a historical episode. I think with number 9, I'm surprised I haven't done this more because there is so much potential with exploring history. I think there's so many different, periods in history that you could cover, and I'm so glad that they took advantage of it here. If we're talking about what I would like, I'd love to see some more historical number 9s, maybe something set in a world war perhaps, or maybe like recent history, maybe because Pemberton and Shearsmith are both northern, perhaps maybe something to do with the miners' strikes, maybe in the 70s and 80s, that could be quite cool, maybe, who knows. But yeah, I love the fact that they took advantage of the time period with the costumes and the sets and they just looked like everybody was having a really good time, and it was just it feels really distinct in the pantheon of number 9 episodes, and it always is a memorable one for me. It's set during the witch trials of the 17th century, Elizabethan, Jacobean era in England. These two famous witch hunters, Pemberton and Shearsmith, play on putting on trial Elizabeth Gadge, accused of witchcraft and sorcery, that kind of stuff that was common in that time period. And as I say, it's a really distinct episode. It's got a great atmosphere and everybody looked like they're having fun with it. And it's just a really great one in my opinion. Admittedly, the plot is fairly standard. It's a fairly standard witch trial story, but I think it is still enjoyable thanks to some brilliantly done humour. There's some great humour. And some of the acting is great, and it's also great seeing David Warner. I think he's really funny and really great as the kind of the main judge. He's really cool. I'm going to start going into a bit of spoiler territory here, but then later on in the episode, I love the kind of stuff with Steve's character and how he questions his allegiances and how flawed and wrong this system of witch trial is. And he's helping Elizabeth Gadge. He ends up getting Reese's character killed because he's mistaken and wrapped up, and he ends up getting burnt to the stake. And then Steve's character gets his neck snapped by Elizabeth Gadge, who turned out to be a witch all along. And it is quite a grisly ending, and you admittedly kind of see it coming. It is a fairly, if you know these kind of stories, you would kind of expect it she was going to be a witch. But it doesn't affect my enjoyment massively. I think it's a simple episode, but a really effective one that takes advantage of its time period, and I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. Really underrated one. Give it a go if you didn't like it on first watch. Give it another go, I'd say. Episode 4, Cold Comfort, and this one, yet again, is another bona fide classic. It uses one of, in my opinion, the best kind of gimmicks that number 9 has done. I hate to call them gimmicks because it seems like I'm underselling it, but the presentation of the episode, it's told via CCTV camera, so it's like webcams and whatnot. So you've got Steve's character is the main webcam, and then on the side you've got little 3 little side mini cameras, and it's got all the CCTV footage thing, and so you're mainly watching Steve's character. So you don't notice the other 3 and what this could be doing in aid of the overall story and maybe the twist. So on a rewatch, you're examining the little cameras and you can pick up on little hints, but then you're just drawn back to Steve's main plotline and the main stuff on the main screen because all the story is so interesting and Steve is such a phenomenal performer. Steve's character Andy starts off in the episode quite normal, just wants to help people with the problems in this support line, but then because of a nuisance caller, and when it's revealed that twist is brilliant, but when it's this nuisance caller, he starts to get more and more paranoid, and it doesn't go insane or anything, but it builds and builds throughout the episode, and there is really good dark humour involved in that, but it is really just it's quite unsettling as well. But the genius bit of the twist as well with who the nuisance caller is that it is in plain sight, it is in the little webcams, but as I said, you're mesmerised by the main meat of the story. You're so invested in it that you kind of lose focus of that. Even me, knowing what happens and trying to figure out the clues, I'm just drawn back to Steve's character and his main plot line because it's that bloody good. And it takes a really dark turn at the end, and it's just hats off to this episode. And I also think as well, this is a good introduction to the show if you've never seen it, because it has all the the hallmarks of great number 9. Dark humour, a great storytelling gimmick, a great twist, brilliantly told, plenty of rewatch value, and just an all-time classic. So I'm going to give this one a 10. It is just phenomenal. Episode 5, Nana's Party, for me, easily the weakest of the season and one of the weakest of the show, in my opinion. It's not bad, it does have a fun factor to it, I can still enjoy it, and I would never dread rewatching it, but for me, this one plays way too safe, especially what For the Number 9 lads can do. It is very, very safe, and it doesn't really push the boundary like we know that they can. I mean, a lot of our elements do feel quite safe. The plot is quite safe. The humour is fairly kind of standard. It's not really pushing the boat out like we know that these guys can do. Even the presentation as well, it does feel, it's very much kind of the sitcom kind of style. You've got, just a normal family setting, a suburban house, and a few sitcom actors like Claire Skinner, for example. It is kind of a bit safe and sitcom, and it doesn't really, it's not really, I don't know, it just doesn't have a lot of depth there. It is fun, but again, it doesn't have a lot of depth there. Also, maybe the acting as well. Like, it's not bad, but I think, with Claire Skinner, for example, she's well known for Outnumbered, the British sitcom, and it does feel, she gives a good performance, but it does feel very much in her comfort zone. It's not really pushing her as a performer, but there are some really good ones. Lorraine Ashbourne as Auntie Carol is quite good. She's quite funny, as like your drunk, embarrassing relative, but there is quite a sombre side to her with her kind of alcohol thing. It is quite well done, and also Pat, played by Shea Smith, who is her husband, and their relationship is really quite nice to watch, and how yes, it's not a perfect relationship at all, but they do love each other, they do care about each other, and you can see that. And I think the relationship with the characters, I think it's probably the best part of the episode, and there is actually some really great weighty stuff with it. But that's about it. As for depth, it is fairly standard, and yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's just not one I have a lot to say about, to be honest. And now, episode 6, the finale, Seance Time. Now, all the number 9 finales usually tend to have the big emphasis on horror. They tend to be the big horror episode, and I think this is probably the best episode, the best finale of number 9, because as much as I love the gothic horror of The Harrowing from Series 1, and in Series 3's Private View, the very, giallo film-inspired episode that is, I think this works brilliantly, because whilst there are supernatural elements, and it is a gothic kind of backdrop it's set to, the main horror, derives from something really disturbing in reality. Little content warning here, the main horror that I'm referring to does involve suicide, so just a bit of a warning, just from here on out, just in case anyone is like triggered, or just a little warning there. But the premise of the episode is about this like fake haunting, like this prank TV show called Scaredy-Cam, where it's like a fake haunting, fake seance, and it's been revived after it was previously cancelled because a kid who went on there wet himself on live TV, and it ended up getting cancelled as a result. Genuinely, this is one of the most underrated episodes of number 9, possibly the most underrated, because it is genuinely one of my all-time favourites, top 5 of the entire show. I adore this one. It's just a perfect distillation of everything that number 9 does so well. You've got elements of horror, you have got like supernatural elements, like some like spirits which come into it near the end of the episode, but also like the gothic mansion like backdrop and aesthetic of it all. It really has a brilliant atmosphere, but you've also got great moments of like levity and comedy, which some of them can make you really just burst out laughing. The bit where Steve punches the blue dwarf character, because that's literally what he's referred to in the episode. It genuinely caught me so off guard, and I couldn't help but just burst out laughing. It was just so unexpected. But there's also like really great commentary on, because this is a prank TV show, how show business and all that kind of stuff can make you such an arsehole, because that is what Reese's character is. He's the host of this show, and he's such an arsehole to everyone around him. He's so dismissive of the first participant at the start of the episode. Like, he's so dismissive towards her, and the crew, the runners and the makeup people. He's so dismissive of everyone, and he's just so arrogant and up his own arse. It's just, it takes to the extreme, and it's such a great performance from him. But then, the ending of this episode, the twist of what happened to that little boy who went on the show and ended up peeing himself on live TV, that it got too much for him, the embarrassment of it and the bullying, that he ended up jumping in a river and killing himself. when I first saw this episode, I can't tell you how shaken I was after that, because it's such a horrible, disturbing thing. But it can so easily happen. You know, things like this can get really out of hand. I mean, the embarrassment and the torment that kid must have gone through after this. You know, like, peeing yourself on live TV, millions of people, like they say, 3 million views on a YouTube clip of it, or the embarrassment and the torment and how much that kid must have gone through because of that. Like, it's just such a horrifying, disturbing thought. It's just really creepy. With that angle, and also one of the on the prank TV show, one of the actors ends up dying. You know, the actor playing the Blue Dwarf, who isn't even said by name in the episode, but his character gets killed in the episode as well. And it's very much a cautionary tale of, on studio sets and on TV and film and whatnot, the safety of the actors always comes first. And if it doesn't, this happens. And it's such a horrifying episode. And for me, it makes it a 10 out of 10 for me. It's just brilliant. And to cap the video off, here's a little mini ranking. At the top, obviously, the 12 Days of Christine, followed closely by Seance Time, followed very closely by Cold Comfort. Then you've got Trial of Elizabeth Gadge, La Couchette, and at the bottom, easily, Nana's Party. But it is still a good one. But yeah, this series is so bloody strong, but the best is yet to come. Join me next time as we cover more Inside No. 9. Like, subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.